Upheaval in New Jersey politics. Bob Menendez resigns his Senate seat. The governor gets to appoint someone to finish out his term. And Republican candidate Curtis Bashaw says appoint a caretaker. He's here to talk about it. New Jersey hasn't elected a Republican senator in over 50 years. Curtis Bashaw hopes to change that. He's my guest here and on The Point, and I want to ask you, Robert Menendez got out of the race, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in New Jersey about who should be appointed to fill his unexpired term. You have a whole list of possibilities, but you don't want it to be Andy Kim, the Democrat. Why not?
Well, we think it's appropriate, Marcia, for our governor to appoint a caretaker and not a candidate. There's a precedent for that in New Jersey under Tom Kean when Harrison Williams resigned, with Chris Christie.
But Jon Stewart?
Well, we just added a list. There's so many people in New Jersey that would be qualified to be a caretaker in this situation. But New Jersey voters really want to see this race prosecuted without a favorite. They want to just understand what each of our positions are and vote fairly.
So you say about yourself that you can't be put in a box. Does that mean that you're like a little bit Republican, a lot Republican? Why do you say that about yourself?
Well, I'm a lifelong Republican. I voted for Reagan in 1980. I'm a small businessman, and I've built a business from 20 employees to over 1,000. I'm a married gay man. I love the country. I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-police. I'm pro-Ukraine. So, you know, I think too often we're boxing people in with checklists of orthodoxy, and people are ready just for us to run our own race and be who we are.
You just said that you're pro-choice, which is sort of interesting for a Republican, but also because the Democrats nationally and in New Jersey plan to make abortion and the woman's right to choose a big issue in all their campaigns. So what are you going to say to them when they say you're a Republican, you must be against a woman's right to choose?
Well, I'm going to say I'm pro-choice. You know, I believe in freedoms. I don't believe that government should be coming into our homes telling us who we should live with, marry, or how to take care of our health care. And so that's important. I think the Democrats want to talk about this as the #1 issue because they don't want to talk about the border. They don't want to talk about affordability, inflation, and the economy.
Well, one of the things that the Democrats have been talking a lot about is something I'm sure you've heard of called Project 2025, which has a lot of things that may be good and may be bad, but the things that they're highlighting, for example, are the desire to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Your positions on those?
Well, first of all, Project 2025 was an outside group. I don't even know who wrote it. There's
the
things
Heritage
in there.
Foundation, a lot of people who were former Trump supporters.
Okay, right. So there's some things I'm going to agree with and disagree with. I think that it's super important for us to make sure that the contract we have with those who have paid into Social Security remains secure and safe and reliable.
But what about the people who are not getting Social Security now? Would you cut the benefits for people who are too young to collect?
Well, the people who have a contract are anyone who started working in our country. So that would be someone 13, 14, or 15 years old, way in the future that maybe there should be some thoughts about what to do there. But for people who have already started to pay in, we need to keep this a secure retirement and keep that contract.
What would you do about Medicare and Medicaid?
Medicare and Medicaid, obviously on all these things, I'm a business person. I'm from outside of government, and I'm used to balancing budgets. I'm used to driving efficiencies. I'm used to growing revenues. You know, we want to make things work. So I think there's always opportunity in our government bureaucracies to look for efficiencies, to look for better productivity, so it remains affordable for everybody.
So another thing about Project 2025 is it seems to have some anti-gay planks. How are you going to deal with that?
Well, I'm a gay American. I'm a married man. I believe that it's my right to choose who I spend my life with and should be afforded those benefits. So we're strongly in the camp of supporting those rights, and I think the Republican Party identified those as things that they also supported in this last convention.
So you mentioned border security. How do you feel the Republicans, or how do you feel if you were elected to the Senate? What would you like to see happen in terms of making the borders more secure? Would you limit people coming in?
There's too many people coming in. It's not locked. I mean, a sovereign nation is entitled to a border with ports of entry that are lockable. You can't have an immigration policy if there's not a secure border. I went to the border 6 weeks ago. I stood there over from 12:30 to 3 in the morning and watched 65 people walk into our country. It was like lining up for Space Mountain at Disney World. And they had TSA pre-check. I mean, it was crazy to watch people from China, Syria just come in the back door, and it undermines the work that legal immigrants do. About a third of our workforce in Cape May are legal first-generation Americans. They went through a process that took 2, 3, 4 years. To have people cutting the line isn't fair. And the fact is, because New Jersey is a sanctuary state, we don't even know who they are that are coming into our communities. It's the #1 issue in our state. It's job one for us when we get to Washington to secure the border. That doesn't need to be a partisan issue. Immigration policy, how many, from where, and why, is a different issue. But just securing your border, it's like I lock my house at night when I go to bed. I don't leave the back door open. And that's what we have at our border right now, and it needs to stop.
Donald Trump would like to deport people who are here now and send them back to their countries. How do you feel about that policy?
I think, one, we need to secure the border. 2, we need to know who they are. And certainly we can all agree that if someone's a criminal, they shouldn't be here. If someone's smuggling fentanyl, they shouldn't be here. Or human trafficking. We need to know who these people are, and then we need to send some home that aren't living by our rules. I think it's a really tall order to deport all these people en masse, but we certainly need to start with securing the border, finding out who people are, and making sure that the people that are doing illegal activities in our country are sent home.
So do you think there should be a limited number of people who are allowed in, or should we just close the borders for a while till we get everything worked out?
I think we should secure the borders and enforce our policies and make sure that we know who's coming through the port of entry into our homeland. And that is something that no one should disagree with. And so that's job one. And when we do that, we will negotiate how many people we think is the right balance for people to immigrate to our country. I'm pro-legal immigration.
So let me ask you, another issue that's very big in Washington right now is what to do about Israel, the Middle East, a ceasefire, bringing the hostages home. What are your positions on that?
Look, Israel is a democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East. They're our longtime friend. I support their right to defend themselves. This issue about the hostages, Hamas could release the hostages any minute, and I think the whole thing would de-escalate. Why they're not called upon to just do that doesn't make sense to me.
But yet, they haven't released the hostages, and they're holding out for something. Obviously, they want to have recognition. Do you support a two-state solution? Do you think it should not be a two-state solution?
I think the first thing they need to do is release the hostages and let them come home so we de-escalate the situation, and then we have diplomatic solutions to the endemic problems there. This has been a terrible tragedy, all sides around. They came in and had a terrorist act that killed thousands of people in Israel, violating their sanctity, and Hamas needs to give back the hostages immediately.
So if you demilitarize the area, who would be in charge of making sure that they don't get any more weapons?
Well, the last time, the Gazans elected Hamas to serve them, and Hamas hasn't served them well. So the process, as it de-escalates, they're going to work this out between the different parties, and I think the United States will be in there helping to negotiate a solution long term. So
you think the United States should be part of it? We have about 30, 40 seconds left. What would you like to see the role of the United States once we bring the hostages home and there's a ceasefire?
I mean, Donald Trump and that last presidential administration worked hard on the Abraham Accords, and there was real progress to try to get things de-escalated in the Middle East. You know, we have terrorist states like Iran supporting these hostage groups as proxies for their war, and we need to stand by our friend.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. A topsy-turvy time in politics, and to help sort it all out, I'm joined by political strategist J.C. Polanco and O'Brien Murray. First off, President Biden decided to step aside and gave a speech saying that it was time for a new generation. But he never really said why he was dropping out.
He dropped a letter on Sunday afternoon at 1:30, and then he waits days without being seen to show up and give a speech, and still doesn't say why he dropped out. He talked about passing the torch. In some extent, we could all have written that speech weeks ago, but now, after the shooting, he had to wait a bit more, and he wouldn't leave. And that's all he said last night. What was it, 12 minutes, 13 minutes?
I think it was very gracious of him to come out. Remember, he didn't have to leave. He didn't have to. So by stepping down, passing the torch, and saying that he loves his country more than the office, I think it cements his legacy, and it gives him the opportunity to also announce what he's going to be working on for the next several months. Supreme Court reform, which is important. He wants to focus on cancer research, which is important. And again, he wants to help his vice president get elected.
He wants to settle. He wants to, settle.
It was very.
As Mayor Koch told me once, it doesn't matter what you do during the campaign, get elected. Everything about this right now is about the vice president getting elected. All his plans of what he wants to try to do are going to be put by the wayside, because anything that he tries to do becomes a wedge. As far as his speech yesterday, the party has an opportunity to get the greatest bump from a thank you to him at the convention with him being there and taking a bow, without him having to give a speech per se, but yet the party can wrap themselves around him, and the media will love it, and it'll be a great story, and it'll be a great wind at our sails.
But are you really saying that he shouldn't push the Supreme Court changes because it could hurt the candidacy of Kamala Harris?
The example I use is the Secret Service. Why didn't somebody call for her to resign before she testified? The president didn't do it, and the vice president didn't do it. That will happen between now and the election so many times. And any issue he brings up, any policy he brings up, she will have to be with it or against it. And if she's with it, will it be something too far left?
Well,
he's going to try to cement his legacy on the left. She's got to win in the middle.
Well, listen, as far as what you mentioned with the Secret Service, there were investigations going on. The Republican National Convention was going on. There was a lot going on. By the way, genius move on behalf of President Biden sending that letter on Sunday. Normally, what happens after a convention, that's all we talk about. Last week's convention. No one's talking about that convention. Everyone's talking about the letter from Sunday and last night's
speech. Didn't we talk about that here, where we said he'll do it during the convention? He could do that.
I think
they have a chance to take the wind at the sails. Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance, and a great pick on your part, but picked him because he thought he had this thing sewn up. He went for his legacy, not for the win.
But here's the question. So now we have a situation where Biden is the president, but now you're saying he's got to watch what he says. But what about Israel? They seems to be that they don't agree on everything in terms of Israel. She seems to be a lot more concerned about the Palestinians and what's going to happen afterwards. He just wants to bring the hostages home and maintain his quasi-friendship with Bibi Netanyahu.
In 2020, when I was working a Democratic race for Congress, actually the one against AOC up here in the Bronx, in Queens, it was amazing how much the Biden team was afraid about annoying the left. They did not want to do anything to goat them in. He stayed as far left as he could. That's what's going to happen now. And if they stay left with the vice president, it's not going to work out well.
Well, remember
so what are you suggesting? I mean, in terms of Israel, are you suggesting that she has to be in the middle and he has to be in the middle? Or are you also suggesting that there can't be any settlement of what goes on in Israel till after the election?
I've been so lucky with the men and women that I've worked for. They're the candidates, but during a campaign, the manager calls the shots because they know everything the candidate can't manage. And that's one of the things this vice president had a problem with in the last primary. So if you have a situation where the Obamas and the Clintons all get together and they get the right leadership team in there and they make this happen, you're not going to know what's going to happen from day to day until they have a plan in place from now to the special. It's a special election. You've got under 100 days to do this.
But remember one thing. There's a very important community in Michigan, Dearborn, that the Democrats are going to need in large numbers in order for them to have any shot of picking that state up. This is about the swing states. So I think that considering the community that was separating from President Biden through protest voting during the primaries, it's important that Vice President Harris brings a coalition together, brings them back, and support her candidacy. And quite frankly, she's in the middle on this. Wait, Obi. She wrote, I think, a very good response to what we saw outside of Bibi Netanyahu's speech in Congress yesterday, where the American flag was burned. She came out strongly in support of the American flag. It's a symbol of freedom. Look, this is not a radical left politician. She was a prosecutor, attorney general. She has a strong record on prosecuting crimes. I think it's going to be really hard for Republicans to paint her as a left.
In Pennsylvania, she's against hydrofracking. Whether she picks Shapiro or not, which she shouldn't pick Shapiro, because at this point right now, the state troopers are going to be part of the investigation. You can't have the governor running for office and have any questions whatsoever about that, because it'll be another campaign issue. She's going to really almost have to go with the Arizona senator at this point, with Mark Kelly.
I think that'll be
an astronaut, combat veteran, a guy from West Orange, New Jersey.
That'll be an amazing pick. I mean, think about it: Harris and Mark Kelly. Wow, that'd be. And
he's got a twin brother. They can campaign together, separate.
That'll be a great pick.
So both of you are now in agreement that you should pick Mark Kelly?
Oh, no, I say it'd be a great pick. I think Shapiro is also a great pick. Remember, you need to win the blue wall. If she doesn't win the blue wall, this election is over.
Picking Shapiro will not help in Michigan, as you're talking about. That's one thing. Second thing is, I don't believe he can get through this unscathed with any kind of question. He's going to have to testify before Congress at some point because of the state troopers. They did a great job. The state troopers may have done a great job. Might have been the locals. Might have been Secret Service. Somewhere in there, he cannot be caught. It's almost like Chris Christie and Bridgegate, but this governor didn't create the situation. His state troopers are going to be investigated for this shooting.
Well, it'd be great if Vice President Harris can pick up Mark Kelly and win Arizona. This becomes a lot more doable.
What about Roy Cooper? What about Mark Bashir?
There's no way she's going to win. It'll be a waste. It'll be a waste of a pick. And the reason it would be a waste of a pick is...
What's a waste of a pick?
I know why Bashir and I know why Cooper. You have white guys from the South that have won in red states. Great idea. Fine. But the idea that you're going to win Kentucky or North Carolina, you have to make a play for Arizona. That's a more doable bet than it is for her to win Kentucky.
It's not just Arizona.
Mark Kelly only won by a small margin last time.
Yeah, but winning in Arizona by a small margin is a huge deal for a Democrat.
One of the things to think about here too. Remember when you had the caucus, Benson. The question was...
You just aged yourself.
No, but the important thing was, the question was, should it be the other way around? Benson at top. Mark Kelly is actually probably a better candidate, but hasn't been out there yet running for president.
And his wife was almost assassinated. We have to remember, this is a great story that Mark Kelly brings to the table, and Vice President Harris needs to make sure that she gets Arizona. When Biden was still running, when President Biden was still running, Arizona was up. New Mexico was now polling badly for the Democrats. Nevada's polling badly for the Democrats. So that entire region can really bode well for Vice President Harris with the Mark Kelly.
Are you really saying also that she appeals to a different voter base than Joe Biden? I mean, she appeals to younger voters, to minority voters.
Yep, and women voters.
And women voters.
She takes all the Biden base and gets to add to it. The question is, what happens to the couple 100,000 votes you're talking about up in Wisconsin, the Pennsylvania, that whole Midwestern area at this point, Arizona for one? What is going to happen for tens of thousands of votes in those states? And I don't think she can get through it because of the short time she has in the campaign at this point. She's got a great bump. She did great raising money. All that stuff is terrific. But I just don't see it right now in today's...
People are paying attention now, and through Labor Day, people are going to really focus on this candidacy. And she could tell her story. She's walking in with a couple $100 million. She has a lot of energy, and I think that considering that we need the Vice President Harris, these 6 states, to make this happen, you're looking at cities like Atlanta, cities like Detroit, which are going to be very important in this election. She's exciting people all over the country.
There was an Emerson poll that came out in the swing states. She narrowed it compared to Biden, but she was not beating Trump in those states.
But she will, she can, and there's time.
It's a honeymoon period. I just don't see it happening.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back. Thank you for joining me. How long is too long to remain in the workplace? When should you retire? New Yorkers have all sorts of ideas, and they're weighing in on your point. Do you think that you'll be able to retire?
Yes.
Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah, like we're retired, bro.
Oh, God, in this climate? I hope so. That'd be nice.
Of course.
I'm hoping eventually.
Yes, I do think I'll be able to retire.
I'm going to. I'm retiring at the end of this month.
So what age would you actually be when you retire?
Probably like 60.
In my 60s, maybe, probably 63, 65.
I set high expectations for myself, so probably 55 to 60, 57-ish range.
80.
Like 95. Yeah, in 2024, probably really old because the economy is declining.
I'm 31, so I could retire at 32. I think that's a good age.
You think that's really realistic?
Probably 70. I like working. I do.
You're a workaholic.
I'm a workaholic.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I will be at my desk forever.
Do you think you'll be able to save enough money to retire comfortably?
No. Yeah, probably not.
No, I'm going to still work part-time because I'm a psychotherapist, but I'm just going to reduce my hours and still work.
No.
Why not?
Because I'm poor already, so I don't think I'm going to retire with anything else.
Everything's so expensive. It's so hard to save money.
Not to live in this country.
Where would you move to?
Cambodia, some other country.
Do you think you'll be able to save enough money to retire comfortably?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't have any kids or like anybody at home waiting for me, so all I can do right now is save money.
I actually have.
Good for you. What would you like to do when you retire?
When I retire, I would probably like to go off the grid.
Move to Florida.
I want to go to shows. I want to keep singing classical music.
I want a mansion in either Miami, Los Angeles, or West Orange, New Jersey.
Travel. Have my family with me, my friends with me. Just travel the world.
Probably hang out with my nieces and my nephews more often, spend more time with them.
Continued traveling and meeting people and having fun.
That's a tough question. It's hard to think about it when you're always working.
I want to swim more and just enjoy life.
Play with my grandkids. Yeah, I want to have kids one day, so.
Sounds great.
Yeah, play with my grandkids. And I want to get like 15 cats and then travel the world somewhere with all of them.